Hello again. Welcome to another edition of Media Watch. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Raymond Peterson.
I'm Bob Anthony.
And I'm Alan Singer.
Educator, historian Dr. Alan Singer, our resident expert on Media Watch. Glad you're with us and happy to have Raymond back from his temporary absence. And a lot to parse. So this is being taped the Wednesday, April
8th.
8th. And hopefully it'll air on Manhattan Neighbor Network next Monday, being brought to you by the good graces of EVT Educational Productions, Zoom, and the four of us. And there's a temporary supposed, 2-week ceasefire in the illegal war that Donald Trump actually launched at the behest of Benjamin Netanyahu that caused all kinds of havoc on the globe. Guys, who wants to jump in on how that ceasefire came about and how temporary it might be or how lasting?
Well, Donald Trump has announced that they have total and complete victory, 100%. And his spokesperson, Caroline Levitt, one of the blondes, said we've achieved our core military objectives. However, Robert Reich and Paul Krugman both announced the United States lost because the situation now is exactly what it was before it launched the war. And Iran has also declared victory because they could still control the Strait of Hormuz. And right now, they're not letting ships through because Israel will not observe the ceasefire and stop attacking Lebanon. That's my take.
Listen, here's what Heather Cox Richardson quoted in her column, I think yesterday. She was quoting Ben Rhodes. I think Ben Rhodes used to be in one of the Obama administration at some point. And I think he's a national security analyst of some sort, or those kinds of credentials. But Ben Rhodes' quotation is, in the best case scenario, Trump struck a deal to reopen a strait that was open before the prior pointless war he started, demonstrating its with Iran, demonstrating its control over the strait and potentially extracting fees plus sanctions relief. Thousands of innocents, including hundreds of children, dead in Lebanon and Iran for no reason, U.S. troops killed and wounded, U.S. embassies and bases in the Middle East badly damaged, U.S. standing in the world obliterated, U.S. munitions badly depleted, hundreds of billions spent, prices up everywhere, more global economic fallout to come. Putin strengthened and enriched, just a catastrophic situation, even in the best of circumstances. A profoundly shameful episode in American history, no matter what happens next. I couldn't have phrased it any better.
And we don't get that information from the government. We don't get it from Carolyn Levitt. The tweets that Trump sends out are just full of blather, no facts, and no contact with reality. He insults religion, uses F-bombs and cuss words at press conferences. And as Ray was saying just before we went on air, we're in a crazy state of affairs.
Yeah. Well, also, you're talking about his language, the unpresidential language that he uses. So as I mentioned earlier, he was doing that during his balcony address on Easter Sunday with kids in the audience. He's dropping the F-bomb and everything else. He doesn't care. He's got no respect for anybody, least of all himself. Anyhow, I didn't mean to get off on a tangent, but I just wanted to point that out if anybody missed it.
No, basically,
he's
you're
got no
correct
respect for anybody.
in that rant on the White House lawn for the Easter egg roll or whatever the occasion was, where he was still dropping the F-bombs that he put in his tweet the night before or whatever. Basically, the guy is demented and crazy enough to stand up in a press conference and admit to the fact that, yeah, threatening to bomb power plants, bridges, civilians is a war crime. And yeah, I know it's a war crime, but I don't care. Pretty much says to me, he's totally gone around the bend. And the fact that he would stand up and publicly admit to that says to me that if those Republicans that have kept him in power, refused to rein him in when he declared this illegal war, if they are still in power after the midterms, then the American public deserve every bad thing they get. Because nobody is holding the Republican controlled Congress feet to the fire for allowing this madman to do what Ben Rhodes just articulated.
Now,
So
Marjorie Taylor
eloquently.
Greene announced that she believes Trump is insane. And it takes an insane person to recognize that.
Mm.
No,
But
we're
this
in a.
is,
Go ahead, Alan.
no, I'm done. Go ahead. Mark.
No, we're in a strange state of affairs when Marjorie Taylor Greene makes perfect sense. She was dead on, and a friend sent a tweet sent out by the Iranian embassy in South Africa, and all it said was, "Seriously consider the 25th Amendment, Article 4." That's all it said, and they nailed it. The man is mad, and the Republicans aren't doing a effing thing about it. I'm respecting your show by not using the F-bomb. And people like Mike Johnson blindly follow this idiot. And yes, if we as voters don't do anything about it, we deserve what we get.
It is crazy. But you know what? I think Bob, you, maybe Alan, one of us predicted the fact that Trump is going to say the war's over, we've won, and claim victory. And we said yes, and the Iranians going to say, yeah, but guess what? We control the Strait of Hormuz, so we will determine the terms of what this peace treaty is that you claim you have just victor. And guess what? The Iranians have just done that, because I just heard a quick headline before we went on the air that said they have just reblocked the Straits of Hormuz because Israel has refused to stop its assault on Lebanon.
Mm.
And so the Iranians have said, Israelis need to get out of Lebanon or else the straits are going to be closed. And so I'm hoping that the Iranians stand up for the Lebanese as they have just articulated, because Israel needs to be reined in. We went into this war, and I believe Maggie Haberman and another New York Times reporter just did a piece in the Times about how we got into this war, and it was primarily because of a briefing that Benjamin Netanyahu gave to Donald Trump in the White House, which is, I think we said 3 shows back, that once Netanyahu visited, this fool came out with this plan. And so Haberman had just brought in the receipts to actually back up what we surmised 3 shows back, that Netanyahu's big briefing coincided with Trump's asshole interpretation of what he thought could happen if he tried a quick strike in Iran. And those stupidities came together. Go ahead, Alan.
Marco Rubio confirmed it. Marco Rubio said that we went in because Israel was going to go in anyway. He then backed off. But the reality is the United States went into this illegal action because of manipulation by Israel. And this worries me. I'm an American Jew, and I see these things, and I keep worrying about anti-Semitic blowback. Jews are going to be blamed for what Trump and Netanyahu and Marco Rubio did. And there's real evidence that this can happen. Trump actually demanded that the University of Pennsylvania submit a list of Jews who worked there. Now, the last time anybody demanded a list of Jews who worked at a place, that was Adolf Hitler in the 1930s, and that did not turn out good.
Yeah, but see, the problem I still have with Netanyahu and his government, and it always deals with military aggression. Talk to us, Alan, about the latest military aggression against the CNN journalists. Because talk about aggression militarily.
The Israeli forces on the West Bank, the occupying army in the West Bank, are out of control. And one of the reasons, there is a special battalion made up of ultra-Orthodox Jews who are settlers on the West Bank. So what you have is, they said, well, the Israeli army is there, but the Israeli army unit is actually the settlers. And CNN was observing the mistreatment of the Palestinians and were filming it. And that battalion actually attacked the CNN, attacked their cameras, and they
Destroyed one camera.
yeah, but I think they did is they drove one of the cameramen to the ground and put him in cuffs and stuff.
Chokehold
Yeah.
on one of the reporters.
Yeah, they were roughed up.
Cameramen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Israel's going to investigate, but that's a load of crap. They haven't investigated or established blame or apologized for anything that has happened on the West Bank or in Gaza or in Lebanon.
Netanyahu just said, as far as he's concerned, the ceasefire does not extend to their operations in Lebanon. Bob, you had something on that, right?
I mean, the journalists in that were roughed up. I mean, they were doing their jobs, and between Netanyahu and Trump, they've been attacking good journalism. Israel has been killing journalists, and that's been proven by a number of entities. And I heard that that battalion would be suspended or something like that. I don't have any faith in that. Nothing ever happens to people who attack journalists or kill them anywhere in this mess. So that incident doesn't surprise me. But we're in a sad state where good journalism is being attacked by Israel, by the United States, and global. Actually, we're doing some of the worst job at this moment.
Raymond, didn't we have something about Trump and his assault on the CNN entity itself because of the reporting on this ceasefire?
Well, I think CNN as well. Well, I don't think you can single out CNN. He's after everybody. He's after American journalism across the board. He doesn't want anybody reporting anything negative about his administration, about any of his actions, or anything that's not in favor to him.
If you saw that press conference that he had, that 90-minute, that Wendy press conference, a New York Times reporter, a brother, asked a legitimate question. I can't remember what it is. Trump's
about
first
the war crime situation. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Right.
Thanks, Eric. And his first response was, "And how's the circulation of the New York Times going? It's fading, isn't it? Used to be a great." He went into a tangent.
But before he did that, he asked him what organization he
Are you
represented.
with?
Yes, exactly.
Now, if he said Fox News, he might
It would have been a different
answer.
response. You nailed it, Ray. It would have been a different response.
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
think Trump's actions really represent onset dementia. When people have dementia, what happens is they lose the train of what they wanted to say. They get frustrated and they begin attacking out and just repeating things at random that they remember. This is really dangerous. One thing to say is insane, but it's another. Clinically, he should be examined for not early, but for onset dementia. This is very scary.
I'm not going to challenge that interpretation because I think it's quite correct. But remember, this is the same guy that if you're a journalist, and especially if you're a female journalist, and you say something he doesn't like, he's going to attack you. He's going to insult you. He's going to do all kinds of things just because that's who he is as a person. Now, when you become drunk and you also start getting onset dementia, it brings out the worst of your personality. So, yeah, I agree with you. But correct me if I'm wrong, Alan, did not Trump decide he was going to try to launch an investigation into CNN's reporters and the CNN news entity just because they had reported that Iran not only contradicted Trump's claim to victory, but they reported that Iran had put forward a 10-point peace plan that Trump had basically said, they've said something that we think is worth negotiating about. And Iran then therefore said, yeah, well, we got exactly what we wanted. They're going to negotiate on our terms. Is that not what happened?
That is exactly what happened. Again, Brendan Carr is threatening to take away the licenses of news organizations that are unpatriotic and not telling the truth. And, people know Blondie, Pat Bondi was fired as Attorney General. And the new person who's put in used to be Trump's lawyer.
Yeah,
And he is even more vicious than she was. One of the things, the first action they took is they're now conducting more investigations of Trump's enemies, including Cassidy Hutchinson, who was the young woman working in the White House, who testified before Congress about what she actually heard and saw about January 6th and the Trump's complicity. They're investigating her now.
That's Todd Blanche. This is Todd Blanche, who was the Deputy Attorney General. This guy, Todd Blanche, was Trump's personal lawyer who lost to Letitia James in the New York trial, if I remember correctly. And so he's now the acting Attorney General, and Trump is probably going to try to get him to resurrect the Letitia James suit since he's a vindictive SOB. And so Blanche will happily try to reinstitute that, just like they're trying to reinstitute something against James Comey. And so, yeah, Todd Blanche is another attack dog that's probably, as you said, Alan, worse than Pam Bondi. So all these blonde females that he had up there, like the one Levitt, who keeps mouthing his lies, he lies about they've achieved all their success, totally antithetical to exactly what Ben Rhodes said. A strait that was not a problem before is now problematical. Gas prices that were basically stable, now $50 more higher. Oil supplies having trouble getting through, fertilizer having trouble getting through. And so, yeah, you won. I hate to see what would happen if you lost. If this is your version of victory, please let me not see defeat under your rule.
Yes, the Strait of Hormuz was not in play. It was just an open waterway, and shipping was going through there with no issues. And look where we are now. It's either a toll or it's closed. It's either way. We're far worse off for a war that nobody wanted but him.
Yes,
Congress had nothing to do with declaring that.
The price of eggs is down.
Yeah, I noticed that too.
Yeah, okay. One silver lining.
In my baking, I've been using applesauce instead of eggs because the price of eggs have been so high. So a quarter cup of applesauce substitutes for one egg.
Oh, really?
For bakers in the audience.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So my question, guys, is other stuff that's been ignored because of the illegal, immoral, stupid war. Let me remember. Operation Epic FIASCO.
Yes.
Operation Epic FIASCO.
FUBAR.
Before Fiasco got launched, FUBAR got launched, or Situation Normal all effed up descended upon us. We were worried about what ICE was doing, and we were worried about the Epstein investigation. Well, Bondi got fired because he mishandled, for him, the Epstein investigation. ICE is still doing all kinds of bad stuff. I saw a report where they shot into another person's car, and that person is now in the hospital. I don't know what shape he's in. More ICE agents shot through the windshield, injured the individual who they claim was some Ecuadorian, Guatemalan gang of 18. I forget what the gang name was, but this is what they claim, just like they claim Abrego was also a gang member. We can
did you see that video?
We can never, well, the report that I read was the report from the body cam footage, quote what the report said, Bob.
Well, I mean, I don't. If you're talking about the ICE agent that fired into the vehicle just the other day, if you look at that video, you can't compare that to the one in Minnesota, where the woman, she just drove away. She didn't do anything. But this guy backed up, broke the door of the car, jumped over the median of a highway, and drove in the direction of an officer. So this is I don't support ICE at all, but this was a different case. So, just being clear here.
Okay, because they were talking about the video. This was the print report didn't show the video, that makes the situation seem confusing. That was the quote from the report. So you've seen the video.
I've seen the video. It's a lot. It's an aggressive drive away. I mean, he breaks the you know, he didn't get out the car. They had him surrounded. You know, the car pulls away. The door almost falls off. He drives over the median of the highway to the other side of, you know, traffic.
Well, maybe, yeah, but you know, maybe the guy thought he was fleeing to save his life.
He probably was at that point, quite frankly.
Just
yeah.
Practically trying to get the hell out of there.
Yeah.
And of course, you know, they jump in front of the car.
That could be why the reporter reported it as makes it a complicated situation.
Yes, yeah. Complicated, I'll agree with.
But you know how the administration's going to couch it.
They already counted it that way. They already counted it that way.
Yes.
That's why the reporter came back with the video tends to make the situation a little bit more complicated.
Well, he's being generous.
Yes,
being generous.
Maybe he's just trying to be as neutral as possible.
But you're right. This war is
not time to be neutral.
This war is turning our attention away from ICE. I mean, Christian Nome is gone. Thank goodness.
Isn't the war over though? It was total devastation. I heard him say.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, so the war's over. There's nothing left.
That's what Carolyn Levitt says
it
too.
served two purposes. It got us off ICE problems and it got us off Epstein.
Yep.
So now that there's a ceasefire, we'll see what the new attorney general has to say. Oh, we know what he said. We do not need to be revisiting the Epstein situation anymore. I heard that quote come out of his mouth. Okay, so he's trying to make that one go away forever.
Doesn't he have to be confirmed?
Yes, he does.
Yeah.
But he's just the acting.
acting.
He's just the acting.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
There are two things about immigration that I didn't understand. And one, there are actually more undocumented immigrants in the United States now than there were before Trump was elected. And the reason is most of the immigrants who, without green cards, had been given temporary legal status in the United States, coming from war zones, coming from droughts, coming from hurricanes, coming from earthquakes. What the Trump administration has done is remove their legal status. It has taken people with legal status and has turned them into people who are undocumented so that it can seize them and arrest them. That's why people are going who had legal status are going for their regular check-in and then are being told, no, you're not legal anymore, and you could be summarily thrown out.
Alan, I saw a story that actually gets to the heart of that. A Venezuelan doctor lost his job at a hospital because Venezuela is on the list of places that immigrants are now under excessive review for the processing of their visas. And so this guy's temporary visa expired, and instead of getting the stuff reactivated, they put his name on a list of people to be deported. So he lost his job at the hospital because his visa was not working. He took another job somewhere in the borderlands of Texas, serving a community, high blood pressure, diabetes. So he's working as a doctor, trying to bring medical care, while his husband, he's married to an American citizen.
Yes.
While they try to work on getting the new extension of his visa, but because the new ruling from the Trump administration has put him into this category, they stopped them on their drive back to place of work or wherever, detained him, took him into custody, even though he's married to an American citizen. And now that community doesn't have a doctor that was serving their needs because the Trump administration's cracked down on, quote, illegal immigrants, and they want their quotas
changed
to support
the category.
It is just so
how about the soldier's wife, Eric?
Tell us about the soldier's wife before we run out of time.
I think it was Louisiana. A woman who had been here since her infancy marries a U.S. military sergeant who has served overseas in combat. She goes
preparing to deploy. Yes, he's preparing.
She goes to the office to update her status now that she's married they're actually living on the base, and she gets arrested.
Yet she just moved on base to set up quarters.
Yeah.
And they went on the base and dragged her off of the base and put her in detention. She was preparing to get her spousal benefits, activate her green card paperwork now that she was the wife of an American citizen soldier. All that stuff was supposed to be processed while she was on base with her husband, and they just went in there and snatched her. I saw where they just released her, but what's the caveat to that, Alan? Did you just tell us she what?
She has an ankle bracelet on, so she cannot escape and leave the United States. But of course, she doesn't want to go anywhere. She wants to stay.
Oh, God, this is just so abominable.
I mean,
this is Stephen Miller. This is Stephen Miller, okay? This is the guy who comes from immigrant parents. I believe both his parents are immigrants, but he's Mr. Hardline on immigration. This asshole causing people all kinds of harm and distress.
And with that, we have about 1:15 left. But that's what
ICE does.
Good
story, a positive story.
Go ahead.
Okay. On Monday, it was April 6th, an organization called Jews for Racial Economic Justice had a Seder in the street for Passover at Union Square. Yeah. And one of the guest speakers was New York City Mayor Mandani. And again, he has been accused of all sorts of stuff about anti-Semitism. And here he was, he comes to the Seder in the street. I went with my partner, and we're just really glad to see him. It's a really good statement about his respect for people from all different backgrounds.
Good. Interestingly enough, I saw a report in, quote, the failing New York Times that said 48% of New Yorkers think that he's doing a good job. More than 60% actually think the city's moving in a positive direction. And basically, his ratings at the same level of time is a lot lower than Eric Adams was when his honeymoon period, but exactly the same as Bill de Blasio's was.
And with that, we're out of time.
So this has been Media Watch, folks. I'm your co-host, Eric Tait.
I'm Raymond Peterson.
I'm Alan Singer.
And I'm Bob Anthony. Catch up to us on YouTube at Media Watch EVT, and welcome back, Ray.
Thank you.
We'll catch you the next time, folks.